Well, Steph, thanks for joining me on the ODAT Chad podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay, I'm excited to have you. You're in New Zealand.
I am all the way on the other side of the world.
Oh my gosh, look at us, globetrotters.
This is the only way to travel this year, through Zoom.
That's right, through Zoom. And we are international. You know where I thought we would start just for fun? I thought we would, sometimes I end with a lightning round, but I thought maybe it might be fun to start with the lightning round.
Yes, that sounds fun.
Yeah, you want to play? Okay.
Yeah.
So, favorite quit lit book. Do you have a favorite? I know you can list a few if you can't pick one.
There are so many. And now I do have a favorite, which is probably a pretty standard one. My Just for Today sits next to my bed every day. I love reading it. That's probably my pickup go-to book.
Okay.
I am also listening to the audiobook Idiot by Laura Cleary, which is not so much NA or AA, but it's a fantastic read, really inspirational and funny. But it's really hard actually to name, like I have a favorite now, but it's really difficult to name like a book that really helped me earlier because I came into recovery. I could barely read. I couldn't read.
Oh, that's
preambles
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so
I forgot about that. Couldn't read when you first got sober. That is amazing. Yeah, we're gonna have to dig into that one a little bit, but it's very cool that you have a couple of books that you love now. That is amazing.
Audiobooks are a lifesaver.
What's that? Audiobooks?
Audiobooks. They're a lifesaver.
Right. Tell me about it. I think right now I have about 107 audiobooks.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that makes my list of like 2 look ridiculous.
In typical obsessive fashion, I have over 100. Yes.
I love it.
I love books though. I mean, it's amazing the ideas that you can get, different perspectives. I'm just an obsessive learner. So yeah, that's my jam. Love the audiobooks. Well, do you have a favorite like go-to mantra or quote that you live by?
I remember one quote that's always stuck with me. I heard it really early on, and I definitely don't hear it enough, but expectations are premeditated resentments. That is, I have very high expectations of myself and of other people, and that quote has really helped me understand how damaging expectations can be, especially in recovery. So that would be my go-to quote probably.
Okay, expectations are premeditated resentments. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Love it. What else do I have for you? Do you have a regular self-care practice, like a daily morning routine that you follow, or do you follow more of like a weekly self-care practice?
I think I'm probably more weekly. I know a lot of people do their daily morning routine around recovery, and I work and I have a young child and I study, so I kind of get a little swept up with life and I forget to do the daily things. But I think my daily practice would be every day I wake up and I agree with myself that I'm gonna just try be a little bit better of a person today than I was yesterday.
A little bit better. That's so sweet.
Yeah. And then I have my home group and my routine meetings and my meetings with my sponsor, which are kind of a more weekly, fortnightly routine rather than daily. But yeah, I should probably work on my daily routine a little bit more. But
I mean, I like having a morning routine, and I know it's tough with little ones, right? Because they don't necessarily follow a schedule. But I find that if I'm able to do my self-care practice in the morning, then I tend to be a little more even keeled. Is that an American expression? You know what I mean?
Yes, it is. Right? I don't really know what it means, but I'm following you a little bit. Even stable,
yeah, emotionally sober, yeah, stable is good.
It's funny you bring that up actually, because I've been working really hard the last maybe month on setting my alarm half an hour before my son wakes up so that I can just kind of ground myself. I might do a really quick meditation, but I definitely press snooze a little too often still.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's easy to do, but for me it's so important. I just spoke at this women's group today and I gave them the red Kool-Aid analogy, meaning you wake up every morning with a pitcher. Do you know what red Kool-Aid is?
Uh, no.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
I've never heard that analogy and I don't know what red Kool-Aid is.
Well, listen, you didn't hear of it before because I just kind of made it up. But Kool-Aid is this red sugary drink that um, uh, kids drink. So the analogy is that everybody wakes up with a pitcher full of red Kool-Aid. And if you can imagine a pitcher that's full to the brim of this red, sticky liquid, um, if you don't take a few minutes in the morning to pour it out, the red liquid is like your feelings, your unprocessed, unresolved feelings from the day before. So if we
Mm,
don't take a time in the morning to sort of pour it out, then we're walking around through our day with this red pitcher of Kool-Aid. And any person that bumps into you or triggers you is going to make you spill your Kool-Aid. And that red liquid is, it stains, it's sticky, and it creates a huge mess. And while yes, we can clean it up, it leaves a stain. So the example
mm,
I gave to somebody as I was working with this young lady when I first went back to corporate, and she was very critical and it made me super nervous. And so, but I didn't take the time to do my morning self-care routine. So one day after stuffing, like taking her abuse for quite some time, I just spilled my Kool-Aid all over her. It was it was a disaster. I made her cry. It was all bad. And I was able to clean it up, but my relationship with her was never the same.
mm,
There was this stain from the experience that we had with each other. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I need to, pour it out every morning so that I'm walking
mm.
around with a little bit of grace, right? A little bit of,
That makes so much sense. Now, I understand the analogy now, even not knowing what Kool-Aid is. Um,
it's
that's
terrible. You don't need
actually
it.
sometimes I definitely, my pitcher is a little full.
Hmm.
Um, but I have learnt almost to ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. When I do feel that it's too full, I will remove myself and I'll kind of do some self-care then. But I need to sort of move into doing it before it gets too full and before it gets
Yeah.
bumped. So that's definitely something that I'm like so aware that I need to work on. But us addicts, we're stubborn, we're uh, self-sabotaging sometimes.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but
So yeah,
but we're also human, right? And so we're making
we are.
progress, and it's important to focus on the wins. So that is all good, totally normal. What is your sobriety date?
My sobriety date is the 9th of September 2016.
9th of September 2016.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And you're so young. How
Oh,
old are you?
I am 24.
Oh my God, you're so cute.
I
And
know, I'm just a little baby. I
you're
get
so
that in all the
sweet.
rooms too. I'm the youngest by at least 10 years in all the
Yeah,
rooms.
I got sober when I was 25. So by the time you're old like me,
Wow.
a lot of time.
I'll be an old timer. It'll be great.
Yeah, I wish they would just call it long timer.
Remove the word old. I agree with
Yeah,
that
I mean, that's
actually.
just rude, frankly. It's rude. But no, congratulations on your sobriety. That's a big deal.
Thank
So
you.
you got sober super young. Yeah, my husband got sober when he was 18 and he stayed sober too.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
incredible.
it's pretty
18 is
amazing. I
18 is
mean,
so young. I thought getting sober at 20 was young, but
I mean
getting
that
sober at
is
18 is next level.
I mean 20 is so young. So you have saved yourself a lot of heartache. That's amazing.
Mm.
Um so what I thought we would do, oh, one more question.
Yes.
What's one thing you wish you knew when you first got sober that you know now?
Oh, it's a little bit morbid.
Ooh, I love
um,
morbid.
I wish I had known that one day I would wake up and I wouldn't want to die. I really
Oh,
wish I had known that.
that's inspiring. That's not morbid. You wish you had known that one day you would wake up and you wouldn't want to die.
Yeah, I truly believed that even getting sober, I would just always wish for death and be resentful when I woke up alive. And today I'm not. Today I'm happy to
Oh,
wake up alive.
Steph. Yes. Wow, that is, girl. It's too early to start making me cry in this interview.
I know, I can feel my heart as well. I'm like, oh, don't cry yet.
I mean, crying is good. I feel like everyone's always like, don't cry, don't cry. But I feel like tears is like pain leaving your body. Like I'd
Oh,
rather
so
let it
good.
out, right? Like we're used to
Yeah.
stuffing it instead of feeling it. So that's a big part of recovery is learning to feel our feelings, accepting them,
Mm.
giving them a little space. Um, so normally I just have people share their story, like what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. I'll give you, 10, 15 minutes
Okay.
to tell your story. And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. Is that okay?
Yes, I love questions.
Awesome.
um, okay. I have actually been, obviously knowing this was coming up, I've been kind of reflecting on my story and going like, oh my God, you have to have everything perfectly and you have to make sure you
No,
say
no, no.
everything in succession. And then I just kind of thought, no, I was on a lot of fucking drugs. Some things are a little blurry. So I will do my best. But it is definitely my timelines go like this instead of like this.
Yes.
I have been reflecting in hindsight about, I always say my addiction started when I was 10. And I don't actually believe that to be true anymore. I started using substances when I was 10. But I can remember being 4 or 5 and just not knowing how to function in the world. I didn't understand what my place was. I didn't understand how to connect with people or talk to people. And I was so sad all the time. And I covered it up with all this exciting, happy, bubbly stuff. But like, yeah, I remember being 5 and just thinking, God, I hate myself.
Oh my God.
I know.
Why? Why did you hate yourself at 5?
I have no idea. I really don't. I feel like I was just born with my wires a little crossed.
Hmm.
Um, so, I had already grown up with that kind of real self-doubt and self-hatred. Um, and then, I um, I was assaulted when I was 10 by a friend's father. Um, and that was kind of like, I feel like that was the big defining moment in my life of like, I was standing at a crossroads and I had 2 paths I could go down. And, I chose the really, really hard path. Um, and I remember the first time I ever used anything, it was alcohol. And I had stolen it from my dad, a big bottle of vodka, I believe it was. And I and I smelt it and my eyes just instantly started watering, like disgusting. But instead of that putting me off and me being like, close the lid, don't do that, I held my nose and I just chugged it as fast as I could.
Wow.
Um, and I got really, really, really sick, as you would when you're 10 drinking alcohol. Um, but I remember so distinctly having this thought of like, this is what I want my life to be like. I don't want to have to feel anything anymore. And
Oh.
I really thought I had found that in alcohol at the time. So I kind of continued that way. And obviously getting alcohol when you're 10 is not easy. So it was, drinking out of the bottom of people's glasses after a dinner or stealing some out of the cupboard and replacing it with water, thinking I was so clever. um, and that appetite to just get high and forget everything hard in my life was getting like stronger and stronger and stronger. And I went to a primary school where we kind of had our school and then a middle, I think you guys call it middle school here. So at lunchtime we would kind of mingle and mix the primary school and the middle school. And that was where I was introduced to weed. And again, it was like, oh, I love it. This will be me for the rest of my life. And I got really sick from that too. I don't know if you guys know, but the weed that's grown here in New Zealand is like 96% THC, so it's incredibly strong. And I got incredibly sick, incredibly
Wow.
sick from it. But that never put me off. It always just grew my appetite. And my appetite was growing very fast, and soon weed and alcohol wasn't cutting it. And I was associating with older kids, and some of those kids were from really broken homes. And my friend, who was a little older than me, introduced me to meth. I assume you guys have it over there. I don't really know with
Oh
America,
yeah,
but
huge problem.
yeah. So that was, I was so young. I was either almost 13 or just 13. So I was very young. And I didn't even understand really what it was. Like I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know where to get it. I didn't know. And that kind of, I think that was another real defining moment in my life. That was like, I felt alive. I felt alive, and I felt like I had really found my path, which looking back is very sad to think that meth was my path, but I really did. And it went very quickly. It went from using meth once to being a daily chronic user.
Wow.
And then obviously at so young, it is very hard to find, and it's very hard to pay for. And I remember now I have a different outlook on it now. Back then I almost thought it was my decision, but I started sleeping with an older man to get it. And although it was partly my decision, I was a child and I had a need, and that need was drugs, because I could not function in my life without them. So anyway, I'm gonna end up rambling if I keep taking this long. So I spiraled, and my mum actually put me in rehab when
How
I
old were
was
you when you went to rehab?
A young teenager. I honestly can't remember the exact age. A young teenager, maybe 13.
Wow.
And obviously I didn't last in there. I was 13. There was no way I was getting clean. I didn't even understand the concepts that were throwing around. This whole like self-improvement thing was not on my to-do list. So I actually left rehab. And I don't want to go too much into this because there's still a lot of like yucky stuff there, and I don't want to be attacking my family at all. But my decision to leave rehab prompted my mum to put me into foster care, which was probably another defining moment in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know about your guys' system there, but our system, they're really good to babies and toddlers, and they're not so great with delinquents or youth or
Right.
whatever you want to call it. So I was put in some really atrocious homes, some really terrible homes that children should not have been put in.
What was the nature of the were they physically abusive or not giving you food or?
I was in a range of different homes, so there was a range of different abuse.
Oh God.
Some of the homes were physically abusive and mentally abusive. I remember one home had padlocks and chains on all of the fridge and the pantry, and we were given $4 a fortnight, and we were expected to buy our own whatever we needed.
$4 for 2 weeks?
Yeah, yeah. So our state pays foster carers to look after
Right.
children, and then they are supposed to hand on part of that money to the kids to kind of, you know, pocket money type situation. And it didn't really work like that in some of the homes. So in SIFs, and when I was left in their care, that's where I began to be trafficked and used for money and for sex. Sorry.
Oh, sweetheart, you were so young. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can't even
Sorry.
imagine. No, of course. Of course, that's hard to talk about. You know what? I got to tell you, Steph, thank you so much for being. Now you're going to make me cry. I thank you so much for being so brave. Oh my God. You've been through so much. You're only 24.
Oh, sorry. Just give me 1 second
I
to get my
know.
voice back.
No, take your time, take a deep breath. And you know, when you're ready, we can keep going. But I just want you to know that I appreciate your willingness to be so open about what happened, because your story, sadly, is more common than I would care to think about.
It
And
is,
the fact that
unfortunately, yes.
you survived all that, it's a miracle. And look where you are now, right? Now you're using your life to help other people, and this message is going to go across the world, and young girls who feel guilt and shame about what happened to them, which is, you know, it's so sad that women that are abused, they feel guilty and they're innocent, right? It's like, why do we, I don't know if that's just a woman thing or what, but we tend to take on responsibility that's not ours.
Yeah, we do. We do. And I mean, you know, I'd like to say I'm completely past all that guilt and shame, but I
It's a
don't think I ever will be.
process.
It really is. And
It's a
I'm definitely
process.
moving through it, but it's not something that's, oh, it's over.
No. I mean, I don't think any of that kind of thing is ever over, right? And
Mm,
it doesn't, and here's the deal, it doesn't matter what your thing is that caused you pain. Like, that's why there's always this analogy of peeling the onion, right? It's
yeah,
because every time a layer comes off, we cry a little bit. It's painful.
yeah.
It's painful.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. I feel good. I'll resume
Would you like
if
to
that's all right
resume?
with you. I can
Absolutely.
resume.
Yeah.
Um, so where was I? I'm just going to kind of gloss this area.
We can gloss
Um,
over.
so obviously I, you know, didn't want to stay in these homes.
Nope.
So to try and keep myself safe, I would run away and I would live on the streets until they realized I was gone, which could be days or weeks or months, or they were terrible at keeping track of their kids. So I would live on the streets, and you know, that didn't work to keep me safe either, because on the streets I knew middle-aged addicted men who would help me and keep me safe as long as I was giving them money, and there was only one way I could get money.
Right.
Hopefully analogy implied.
Yes, I think we're all clear. And you're
Yeah.
an adorable tiny little thing. Are you? Is it my imagination, or are you short in
no i'm
stature?
very no I'm very small. I'm just 5 foot, so I'm pretty small.
Oh, you're like a little Polly Pocket.
Yeah, I am. But and you know, that in itself has dangers when you're living in the world that so many of us have lived in. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was tiny and I was very easily taken advantage of because I couldn't stand up for myself.
right.
um so SIFs child services realized
Oh,
that
mhm.
they wouldn't be able to keep me in one place. And at that time I had a boyfriend who was an adult when I was a child,
And how old are you
and
at this time?
uh 14 or 15,
Mhm.
pretty young. um and he was gang affiliated and incredibly abusive. And I distinctly remember the social workers coming to visit his house once, and they didn't even come in. They stood in the driveway and they just said something along the lines of, "We're giving up, you can just stay here now." And You know, I'm sure from the outside it looked like I wanted to be there, but I was trapped there for months and months because the social workers just let me slip through the cracks. You know, I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I wasn't allowed a phone. I wasn't allowed Facebook. I wasn't allowed to eat half the time. And I went to the SIF's office to check in or have a meeting or whatever it was many times, covered in bruises, and they never did anything. So, you know, my use got really, really bad. Until I can't remember how it happened. It's that like trauma memory storage.
Sure. Yeah.
Somewhere along the way he was arrested for beating me up. He was arrested. I can't remember how it happened or how the cops got there, but they did. And I was put back into another foster home. And I couldn't get drugs for whatever reason. I couldn't remember why, but I couldn't get drugs. Like, I didn't know anyone in the area, I think. So I walked myself down to the pharmacy and I bought 500 Panadols.
What is that?
Panadol, it would be like Tylenol, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Paracetamol. It's like a over-the-counter painkiller.
Got it.
So I bought about 500, roughly. And I found a bottle of codeine as well that had maybe 20 codeines in it. And I locked myself in the bathroom and I took all of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And the next thing I remember is waking up in hospital. And the first thing the doctor said to me is, "We didn't save you. You should be dead." And the second thing the doctor said to me is, "Good on ya, you're pregnant."
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very full on.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I was 15, lying in this hospital bed, wanting to die, and pregnant. And I would love to say that that was my turning point and that was where my whole life changed and I got clean, but that's just not true. I tried really hard to get clean while I was pregnant. I was also locked up during that time. So I got locked up in almost like you guys would call it juvie almost.
Yeah, juvenile hall. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was locked in a place like that during my pregnancy and then sent to another rehab. So by this time I was 16. I was sent to another rehab, which I actually did complete, but I started using pretty soon after I got out. But, you know, I wasn't using meth, so it was okay. I was only drinking and smoking some weed and, you know, taking every pill anyone offered me. And I genuinely thought that was me being clean, you know.
Well, I mean, harm reduction, that's a thing, right? At least you weren't.
It really is a thing, although unfortunately it just led me straight back to where I began.
You went back. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, the first year of my son's life was I was living with really, really close family friends, and they were supporting me how they could because my son was actually in custody of SIFs as well. So we were both children of the state, or however you'd like to call it.
Where were your parents when your son was born? Did your mom know?
Yeah, my mum did know. By that point we had a pretty bad relationship, and it would have been detrimental to everyone, I think, if I had gone back to her. And you know, parents of addicts often don't really understand what's happening or why their child is doing what they're doing, and I think my mum was pretty done with me, which, you know, I could ponder and I could be really resentful about it, but that's how it was. She was done.
Yeah,
she was not
I get it.
interested.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of spent that year doing better than I had ever before. And then I went into self-sabotage mode and I destroyed all those relationships. I just threw a bomb in and ran, which led me,
How we do it.
yeah, which led me straight back to daily using. I was working in a strip club because I thought it was better than anything I'd ever done before. And, you know, I don't know how strip clubs in America work, but strip clubs here, well, some of the clubs here, you know, your managers will pimp you out to do more than stripping if they so choose to. So I kind of just ended up back in that cycle of sex work, despair, really heavy using, being a fucking shocking parent because I didn't know how to do it.
Right.
And yeah, my son was taken, I kind of got custody back sometimes, and then it was taken away from me again, and we kind of did this push-pull thing with Steff until one day when I believe I was 20, almost 21. I didn't even hit necessarily a rock bottom. I just woke up one day and it's like all of the rock bottoms I had ever suffered through just like hit me in the face at once. And I just went, oh no, fuck this. Nah, I can't do this anymore. And by this point, you know, my daily routine was waking up and throwing up almost a cup of blood. Like I was just,
goodness.
I was going to die. It was just, when are you going to die? So yeah, I made the call to the same family friends that I had thrown a bomb on a few years earlier. And I said, I really need to get clean. Please help me. I hung up the phone and then I started using.
Yeah. That's normal.
Yeah.
For us.
And by the time they got to me, because they were living in a different city, they had to pretty much scoop me off the floor.
Yeah.
They took my stuff that I had packed, which turned out to be 18 blankets and nothing else. I don't really understand why, but I just decided to pack every blanket in the house and I abandoned my apartment essentially. And, you know, that was the last time I ever used, and they helped me go to rehab again, which I completed. I fought the whole fucking way, but I completed it. And, you know, I don't know why I'm turning around to point. I met my husband in there, which is not recommended. And,
listen, I'm not going to judge you. I met my husband when I was 5 months sober.
Yeah, that was it. We didn't actually get together until we were about, I think he was a year and I was 9 months sober. So still pretty early, but you know, him and my son, who he's now adopted, they have really kept me so grounded in recovery. And yeah, now I don't even look back. Here we are. I've arrived at the end.
Woohoo! Wow, that's an incredible, I mean, so every once in a while I'll hear a story where I'm just like, how did they even survive their childhood? And this is probably going to go down in the record books as one of those, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've endured an incredible amount of suffering. I mean, addiction is a terrible thing. And you've endured so much suffering. And, you know, when you and I first started talking, like when we did our little pre-screening for the podcast, you know, I asked you, I always, you know, let people promote whatever it is that they want to promote. And you had been talking to me about a clothing line, but that a good percentage of that goes to Operation Underground. To save other kids from sex trafficking, right?
Yes.
And this is one of those things where we take our defects and turn them into assets, and that we don't wish to regret. Yeah. Oh my God, I wish I could speak today, but we don't regret the past, or wish to like you're using your past to benefit somebody else. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to. We're still working really hard on getting the name out and kind of building that awareness. So I'm hoping in the very near future that's what we'll be doing. We'll be working really hard to kind of raise those topics that are never really spoken about, or that people don't actually acknowledge are also in their country.
Right.
And human trafficking and sexual slavery is one of those. You know, people refuse to acknowledge that it's in their
Ah,
own
it's so
backyard.
I know, and we look back at like in the United States when there was slavery here, and people look back and say, "Oh, I'm a good Christian person. If I had, I wouldn't have allowed that, or I would have stood up for
Mm.
it." And I'm thinking, it's happening now.
Yeah.
It's
Why aren't you
happening
standing up
now.
for it right now?
Yeah,
Like,
it's happening now. And it was so interesting that when you and I talked, I was just thinking, oh, I need to pick a charity. I need to pick a charity and start donating money. And you were like, I'm doing Operation Underground. And I was like, well, then me too. And it just so happens that there's an organization that is in the town that I live in where
wow,
they support Operation Underground.
that
So,
is awesome.
yeah, so you totally inspired me. So, people,
Yay!
yay. So, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing you did. 20% will go from I have several classes that I offer, and people can donate on my website. So 20% will go to Operation
Oh, that's so
Ground.
amazing. See, that is what this is about. This isn't just about a cool hoodie or giving a little bit of money to charity. This is about creating a fucking social movement
Exactly.
and everyone standing up and saying, this isn't okay anymore. Like,
I
we're in
mean,
2020, guys. Come
hello.
on.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy.
Mm,
And there's some gross statistics like the United States is the number one consumer of child porn. And
yeah,
I mean, it makes me sick, honestly. So
yeah.
anything I can
I think
do to
I think
contribute.
one really important thing and one kind of main goal of my business, other than obviously designing and selling clothing,
Super
is
fun.
changing the way we talk about trafficking. When people think trafficking, they think passport confiscated, put into a container, shipped across the world, and that's not just it. That does happen everywhere, but that's you know human trafficking can be happening to a 6-year-old in her own home when dad lets his
Right.
friends come around. Human trafficking can be happening to someone on the street who has no other options and has a lot of men with a lot of power over her making her do it. It's
Yeah.
human trafficking is so broad and people only see it in one light, and that's if we're going to fight human trafficking, it's really important we acknowledge exactly what human trafficking is. So that's kind of one of the main goals, I think, of my business as well.
How do you feel about legalizing prostitution?
So prostitution in New Zealand is legal.
Oh,
We have something called the PRA 2003, which is the Prostitution Reform Act. I surprisingly, with my history, actually really support consensual safe sex work. And I believe that prostitution being illegal makes for more opportunity for traffickers.
mhm.
Um, it keeps it quiet, it keeps it underground, it keeps it where there's no real regulation or rules. And it keeps so many of our victims being prosecuted for something that they're a victim of. They,
Right.
there are women who are choosing to do that, and that's great for them. But there are so many victims here being prosecuted as criminals
Right.
um, when they're not. They were forced into it, and you know, their traffickers get off scot-free, and they're left with all the consequences and the shame and the guilt, and believing everything's their fault. So
Right.
I am for it in really safe ways. Um,
Right.
I think it needs to be regulated, it needs to be watched, but I am for consensual safe sex work.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna shock my friends, but I always thought that prostitution should be legalized because of what you just
Mm.
said, because the women are being victimized and re-victimized, and it's giving this underground, financing
Yeah.
to men who, I mean, they're men that are profiting off of these poor women. It's just and plus if it were illegal then we could regulate it, the women could get health care, they could be safe. It's
Yeah.
not like it's ever going to go away. It's the oldest profession in the world, as they say.
That's
And
my thinking. This isn't going away.
no,
Arresting women for this isn't going to help anything. Like, come
mm-mm.
on, again, 20 fucking 20, let's progress. Like,
Yeah,
let's
let's
move
pretend like
forward.
it's not, it's going to happen. So
Yeah,
I would prefer that the women be protected and
yeah,
cared for, and that the men not profit in that way. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Um,
funny you mention sex work as a whole, actually, because, one of our marketing strategies, I guess you could call it, is we're actually working with women who are in the sex industry, whether they're strippers or models or full sex workers. We've reached out to them as the woman to promote our line with us,
oh,
because
interesting.
we support them and we love them, and they're just women doing what they want to do, but
Yeah.
the emphasis is on they're doing what they want to do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Giving them the
quite
choice.
it's quite funny because we 100% support legal sex work while also trying to fight trafficking and put a stop to trafficking. And some people don't
Sex work
really
and
know where that
trafficking is
line
not
is.
the same thing. And I think that's what
No,
people get confused about. It's not the same thing.
yeah,
Right.
it's
And
not. And it's really important to make that very clear distinction about what is trafficking and what is not trafficking.
right. Yeah. And here's the other thing. I mean, if it were legal, then maybe men wouldn't have to resort to, hiring women through men that were controlling the women. It's so
Yeah.
gross. I mean, the whole
It's
thing
so
is,
fucking gross. Yeah.
it's so gross. I mean, I can't believe we have to talk about this, but we have to talk about this. Like if we don't talk about it, who's going to talk about it?
Well, it's funny you say that. My business yesterday was put in Facebook jail. We were,
Yeah, you can't
we
talk
were
about it.
reported. We were
Yeah.
reported several times, and um, someone on our page obviously didn't like what we were saying, and that's cool. But we're out of Facebook jail now, and we're gonna keep talking about it because people need to listen.
Yeah.
It's time to stop turning away and time to just listen, even if it's gross and it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
We got to talk about
absolutely.
it.
We have to talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
And there's the upside to it too. I mean, so now you're in recovery, you're safe, you're
yeah,
healing, and you're reinventing yourself and creating a whole new life for yourself. And now you're
yeah,
in a very unique position where you can help other women who've been through it as well.
yeah. It's actually like we only really launched less than 2 weeks ago, and I've already had women from all over the world message me and be like, "Oh my God, like I
Yeah.
wish someone had done this for me. I wish
Oh my
I wish I was
goodness.
strong enough to do this." And it's really amazing to read all the stories and the messages from the women. It's horrible to read, but I feel like it's bigger than just clothing or just a business. Like I've noticed a real community starting to form, and it's
Hmm.
really awesome to know that women have somewhere to come and to reach out and to tell their truth, and they know they won't be judged and they'll only be supported, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Brene Brown is famous for saying that empathy is the antidote to shame, right?
I love her so much.
Do you? Me too. She's amazing. Do you listen to her podcast?
I don't. I've listened to a couple of her TED Talks, and
Yes.
I didn't actually know she has a podcast, but now I might be listening to it.
Yeah, I haven't listened to a ton of episodes, but I saw that she had one, and I love her books and everything. But yeah, empathy is the antidote to shame, and that's
Yeah.
how we heal. And so we need to give these women some space to talk about and process their feelings, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
such important work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but let's talk a little bit about in terms of recovery, just to make it a little lighter. Well, let's leave links to I want to leave links to the clothing line
Awesome.
and ways for people to reach out to you. We'll leave links to Operation Underground. I'll find out how I can put a donate button on my website so that people can just donate directly to them. Like they just
Yay.
leave me out of it, but I will, anything I sell through the website, I will donate 20% to Operation Underground.
Oh my God, I love
I'm gonna
it.
do it in your name. I'm gonna say because my girl Steff said so.
The movement is starting.
It's starting, even if it's just me and you.
Yeah, it's all right. We're bad
Well,
bitches. We'll do it.
that's right. Bad bees. So where are you? So you've been sober for a while now. How
Yeah.
are things with mom? Where was your dad? Does your dad know what's going on? Do you
Oh, yeah. I didn't really mention dad at all, did I?
uh-uh.
Yeah, dad kind of knows. Me and dad have a pretty solid relationship. It's pretty um infrequent. Like we might chat on the phone every 2 months, but when we chat on the phone, we chat for 4 hours. Like
Oh wow.
he's fantastic. So we're kind of
Where was he when
closer
you were
than
growing up?
uh he had babies. He had babies he needed to protect, and my little sisters, and uh he was there. He was just kind of a little bit more in the background.
Were your parents married?
No, no,
Oh, okay.
no. So they split up when I was really, really young. So
Okay, and so you were in
both
your
kind of went
mother's
off, and
care.
yeah,
You were in your
yeah,
mother's care, but your dad couldn't handle you because you'd already.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to badmouth them too much, but yeah, I had kind of gone down a path where it just wasn't safe for me to be at home with my little sisters. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's the tough thing about, I mean, I hear these stories and that's the tough thing. It's like once you get sucked into the addiction, you are, you're like a tornado in people's lives and you cause damage and we hurt people. And so at some point, they can try to help, but at some point, there's like everyone has their breaking point, I suppose.
yeah,
Um, that
yeah,
sounds like I'm trying to
definitely.
justify their behavior. I am not. I have no idea. I have no
No,
judgment. I don't know what's going on.
no, uh, we're kind of, me and my parents are on speaking basis. I
Your
think we
mom
still
too?
have a lot. Yeah, I think we still have a lot to work through.
For sure.
There's a lot of resentment on both sides. And I'm probably just as much responsible for not having that talk as she is. Like we just kind of try and avoid it because it just turns into, I go
Painful.
straight back into that addict mindset where it's just like just say things to hurt her, and that's not what I want to do. So I've kind of avoided it. um yeah, it's a our
What about
relationship's
working?
a work in progress.
What about working through some stuff in therapy? Are you in therapy?
Myself, I am. I don't think I would be willing to do it with my mum yet, or
Yeah.
ever. I don't
You
really know.
need a little
um
time.
I think um there's a lot of shit under there.
For
There's a
sure.
lot.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, oh, for heaven's sakes. Yeah. No, that's not something that you get over right away. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear
And
you're in
it
therapy. What kind of therapy has been helpful to you?
um
Is it like
well,
CBT, like the cognitive behavioral therapy?
no, at the moment I'm just doing, oh, I don't know, what would you call it, just standard
Just
therapy, just standard
talk
talking
therapy. Yeah.
therapy. um and I've tried psychologists and psychiatrists,
Hmm.
and surprisingly the one that stuck is just a counselor, and she's amazing, and she does a lot of work with like somatic memory, so memory
Oh,
that your body is
interesting.
holding, of all that trauma, and she's fantastic. But I'm still pretty early on in my actual professional therapy, because in beautiful addict fashion I avoided it and looked the other
It's
way and tried to
painful. Of
cover it
course you're
up.
gonna. It's painful. Of course you're gonna avoid it. I
Yeah,
mean, I've been
but
sober a really long time, and I'm just now starting to do EMDR therapy. Have you ever heard of that?
yes, and it's
So
something
good.
I'm definitely looking into. New Zealand's a little hard to, we do have it, but there's not a lot of option out there for who you go to for it. um
Okay.
so that's a work in progress, but I have heard of it and I love it.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
then I found that I'm doing my psychology degree at the moment, and that
That's
is
amazing. Girl, can I
that
just
is
tell you, it's from not being able to, you couldn't read because you didn't go to school, right? Because you got
yeah,
started with the
yeah.
drugs and
I
alcohol
mean,
so young.
I don't want to say I couldn't read. I could kind of read. like it wasn't completely illiterate, but I struggled. It would take me maybe 10 minutes to read a preamble. So I did really struggle to read.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a combination of, lack of education and just
Lack of
absolute
practice?
brain mush.
Oh, yeah.
Like my brain was just not with me when I came into recovery. So it
That's
was
fair. I mean,
a work in progress getting that back.
right. And so
Yeah.
now you're in college getting your
Yes.
psychology degree.
Yes, I
That's
am. I'm almost finished
amazing.
my second year. And that has helped me so much because
Amazing.
you read stuff and you identify and you go, oh my God, that's me. And you find out, I completely lost where I was going.
I tell you what though, I know you lost your train of thought. I'm gonna jump in here and let you
Yeah.
find it. But I think what's so interesting is that there are plenty of counselors and therapists who have not done their own work. And I can absolutely sniff that shit out in 2 seconds. It makes me crazy.
Mm,
And because they don't, I think it's so different when somebody does their own work. They're able to facilitate so much better, and like it gives them credibility. It fosters trust in
mm.
me. And look at all the work that you're doing. You're gonna be amazing.
That's the plan. That's the plan. I mean,
That's the plan.
one of the reasons I'm actually in therapy now, um, is because I was granted entry or accepted or whatever you want to call it into
Uh-huh.
university under the pretenses that I would not actually be able to practice until I had done my own work, because they ask for a history. So I had to
Wow,
give them my history, and it was kind of like oh, well, you won't be getting your degree unless you know do
that's
your
actually
own
really
self
smart.
work and can show that you've done significant work on yourself before
Mhm.
you go and work with other people. I mean, it just makes sense. You wouldn't want a broken person working with a broken person. It
I mean,
doesn't
it happens all the
it doesn't
time.
work. It does happen all the time, but
Yeah.
hopefully they're trying to minimize it.
I think that's great. I think that's amazing. And you're going to be
Yeah,
amazing. And you're doing such good work. Just for
thank you.
fun, I thought it'd be fun to compare notes about how meetings are, where you are and where I am.
Yes. Yes, I would love that.
I find
I'm
that even in the states, like from state to state, from city to city, people do it differently. And that's what
Yeah.
I love is like there's no the people who get super legalistic about how things should be done, they just make me laugh because it's like there is no one right way. There isn't. Everybody does it different. So when you guys go to meetings, like 12, we'll just call them 12-step meetings.
Yeah.
How do they run the meeting?
Okay, so we have, I guess I'll just start from the beginning. We have usually a secretary and a treasurer. So our
Okay.
secretary will open up the meeting space.
They'll read the
Usually,
preamble and do all that stuff.
no, so they'll unlock the door
Oh, got it.
to
Open,
the
like
actual meeting.
literally.
They'll put up our banners. Usually they'll choose someone to read the preamble or someone to chair the meeting.
Okay.
Um, and we we start with the serenity prayer, and we go around and we introduce ourselves, usually by name and clean time, although each meeting's a bit different, but name and clean time usually. And then it's either open format where you just kind of introduce yourself and start sharing, or the chairperson will ask you to share. And our meetings,
Will they pick a topic
oh, don't even, they'll do
sometimes?
a reading from Just for Today. So the
Oh, okay.
topic will be whatever the Just for Today reading is.
How many people typically attend meetings? Are they
Uh,
small or big or
well, I live out in the country, so
oh, so like
our
five of you?
meetings like 5 to 10 on a good day.
Okay.
Sometimes you turn up at a meeting and you're the only person there.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. But I've also done meetings in Auckland, which is one of our biggest cities.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's our biggest city. And, those meetings can get up to 100 people sometimes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Ta-da.
hi.
Are we
Not
back?
sure what happened there. Yeah, we are.
Technology. It's a blessing and a curse.
I'm I'm just talking about living rurally. It was probably my internet just been dropped out probably.
I was like, how dare you talk about us being rural? That's so funny.
So I don't know where I got to, but
So the last thing I heard you
small.
say is that there's like 5 or 10 people at meetings, and sometimes you're the only person.
Yeah, so NA, well, 12-step meetings are definitely needed out here in the rural community, but they're taking a while to take off, sort of.
Do you do any online meetings?
During COVID, well, we're not in lockdown anymore. I don't know if you guys are, but during our lockdown, I did try a few, and I really couldn't get on board with them. I needed that. I need that real, you know, physical and energetic connection from people you get from that you get from sitting in the room with
Yeah.
actual human beings rather than
It
behind a phone
is
screen.
it is very different. I mean, but the on the other hand, the way I kind of look at it, when the 12-step meetings started, people used to get sober through letters.
Uh,
Like if
it's amazing how much it's grown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's tough, but I have a friend who just hates it. And I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still a real person on the other side of the screen. It
Yeah.
is totally different. I don't know. I actually kind of love it because I don't have to like leave my house.
That is a positive. I will give you that.
Mm.
Being able to do it in like jammies and a blanket, that's a positive.
Do you see what I'm wearing?
I love
I'm wearing
I love that.
pajamas. Business
It's
up top,
perfect.
pajamas on the bottom.
That's fantastic. Yep. That is my ultimate businesswoman goals.
Oh
Just
yeah.
chilling in my
I
PJs.
I did a corporate gig today in my pajama bottoms.
I love it. I love that.
It was
That is
super fun.
fantastic.
Yeah, it was super fun. Well, listen, Steph, you've been so generous with your time, and I know you have a little one there that needs your attention. This podcast episode is so important to me. The work that you're doing, the inspirational story that you are sharing about how far you've come out of the depths of hell. You've come out,
Yeah.
and here you are, super young, beautiful, your whole life ahead of you, and you're going to be able to do big things in the world because you know what lies on the other side. And it's people
Hoping
that,
so.
yeah, I mean, people that know what it feels like are uniquely qualified, right? So you are
Yeah.
uniquely qualified. You're going to do big things in the world, and I'll have this podcast to prove it.
Yay!
Yay. And I know you have a bunch of podcasts scheduled. I'm going to introduce you to some of my podcast friends. I think that we should get your message out, and I just want to support you in any way you can, in any way I can. So you just let me know how I can help. And thank you so much for your time today.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I'm hoping I will be on many more podcasts to come.
I'll make it happen. I'm a very resourceful woman.
Fantastic.
All right, my love. It was great meeting you. Thank you so much for your story, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.